Listen closely, and I will tell you a story, not of what was, but of what could have been. What if the most powerful object in the Bible wasn't just a chest of stone tablets, but the founding charter for an African empire that would challenge Rome and Persia for control of the ancient world? History remembers the name, but only as a whisper, a myth. They call her Makeda in the highlands of Ethiopia. In the deserts of Yemen, Bilqis. To the wider world, she is the Queen of Sheba, a ruler of unimaginable wealth, not in gold, but in something far more precious in the ancient world, frankincense and myrrh. Her kingdom, Saba, straddled the Red Sea, with one foot in the fertile lands of southern Arabia and the other on the shores of Africa. This was the crossroads of the world, the toll gate for all the riches flowing from India and the Horn of Africa to the hungry mouths of Egypt and the Mediterranean. The story they tell, the one you know, is of a journey. A queen, hearing of the wisdom of a great king in Jerusalem, travels north with a caravan of wonders. She tests King Solomon with hard questions, and he answers them all. They exchange gifts, knowledge, and respect, and then she returns home, a fleeting, brilliant chapter in another kingdom's story. Her lands in Arabia and Africa remain connected by trade, but never truly bound by a single will, a single destiny. They remain a collection of powerful cities, rich but divided. But that is not the story we tell today. Listen, in our story, the Queen's journey is not merely one of curiosity. It is one of statecraft. Makeda sees the rising powers to the north, the embers of Assyria, the shadow of Babylon. She knows that a kingdom built on the shifting sands of commerce alone is a kingdom vulnerable. She seeks not just wisdom from Solomon, but an alliance, a bond, a future. And she finds more than she could have ever imagined. From their union, a son is born, Menelik, whose name means son of the wise man. When he comes of age, he travels to Jerusalem to see his father. Here the story fractures. In the version you know, Menelik returns with the Ark of the Covenant, stolen away in the night, a holy relic for a new nation. But in our timeline, the exchange is no theft. It is a calculated act of political genius. Solomon, facing an uncertain future with his own kingdom, sees in his brilliant Sabaean son a chance for his legacy to endure, not just in the hills of Judea, but across the sea. He bestows upon Menelik not just a replica, but the true ark, and with it his blessing. It is a formal declaration, a transfer of divine right. Menelik does not flee as a thief. He returns as the bearer of a new covenant, the chosen heir to a sacred trust meant to unite two lands into one. He lands not as a prince, but as a prophet king. The fractious tribes of southern Arabia and the powerful clans of the African coast see the ark and hear the story. They see not a man, but the living symbol of a divine mandate. The priests of the old gods of Al-Makka, the moon god, cannot compete with the power of this story, this tangible link to the God of Solomon. The cities of Merib, Sana, and Serwa in Arabia pledge their allegiance. Across the narrow strait, the Bab el-Mandeb, the Gate of Tears, the port of Adulis, and the inland realm of Damt on the African Horn do the same. They are no longer mere trading partners. They are the Sabaean Commonwealth, the empire of the two shores, bound by a single dynasty and a single holy purpose. Wealth that once flowed into the separate coffers of rival merchant princes is now funneled into a unified treasury. The first project of the new empire is not a palace or a temple, but a fleet. Hundreds of ships built from African timber and crewed by sailors who know the monsoon winds as their own breath. They are not warships, not yet. They are the instruments of absolute control over the Red Sea. Any vessel that wishes to pass from the Indian Ocean to the Mediterranean must pay tribute to the heirs of Solomon and Sheba. For a century, their power grows in splendid isolation. They become the gatekeepers of the world's luxury. Roman glass travels east, Indian spices travel west, Chinese silk trickles through, and on every transaction, the Commonwealth takes its share. They build dams that turn deserts green. Their cities become centers of learning, blending Semitic, Cushitic, and Hellenic knowledge. But such power, such wealth cannot remain hidden forever. To the northeast, another empire is stirring, an empire of ambition and iron, forged in the highlands of Persia. Cyrus the Great, the King of Kings, unites the Medes and the Persians and begins a conquest the world has never seen. He swallows Babylon whole, pushes to the borders of India, and casts his gaze upon Egypt. And as he looks at his maps, his strategists point to the south, to the single vital artery that feeds his rivals, the Red Sea, controlled by a single, obscenely wealthy power. To Cyrus, the Sabaean Commonwealth is not a partner to be negotiated with, it is an obstacle to be removed. In 540 BC, the order is given. A Persian fleet, built in the Gulf and manned by Phoenician mercenaries, sails south. Their mission: to break the Gate of Tears, seize control of the incense routes, and bleed the upstart empire dry. Word reaches the Sabaean capital. Scouts on the Arabian coast watch as the horizon fills with sails, more sails than they have ever seen. They bear the standard of the Achaemenid Empire. They are coming not to trade, but to conquer. And for the first time, the empire of the two shores must ask itself if a legacy built on faith and trade can withstand the unforgiving tide of iron and fire. The Persian sails are a promise of destruction, but the children of Sheba did not grow rich by being timid. Their empire was born on the sea, and it is on the sea they would meet this challenge. As the Persian fleet, confident in its numbers, enters the narrow Bab el-Mandeb Strait, they find the waters strangely empty. They press on, anticipating a decisive battle near the port of Agilus, but there is no battle. Instead, there are whispers on the wind. Small, fast Sabaean dhows, seemingly appearing from nowhere, strike at the Persian supply lines, harass their rear guard, and vanish into the labyrinth of coastal islands and hidden coves. The Phoenician captains, accustomed to the open Mediterranean, are masters of naval combat, but this is not combat. This is a war of ghosts. The Sabaean sailors, using their deep knowledge of the treacherous currents, reefs, and unpredictable winds of the strait, turn the Gate of Tears into a killing ground. They do not fight the Persian navy. They let the sea fight for them. Ships are lured onto hidden reefs. Formations are broken by sudden, violent squalls that only the locals knew were coming. The invasion grinds to a halt. The great Persian army, waiting in the north to march on Egypt, finds its naval support severed. Cyrus, a pragmatist, turns his attention elsewhere. The message is clear: the Red Sea belongs to the Sabaeans. This victory, won not with brute force but with knowledge and strategy, solidifies the Commonwealth as a true power. It is their Salamis, their Trafalgar. The conflict with Persia changes them. The realization dawns that wealth alone is not security. The empire begins a program of deliberate militarization, but in its own unique way. The immense profits from the spice trade are now invested in creating a permanent professional navy. Shipyards at Agilus and Cana begin constructing larger, more formidable vessels, warships designed not just for raiding, but for holding a line of battle. They develop new sailing techniques, perhaps a lateen sail that allows them to sail closer to the wind than any of their rivals, making their fleets faster and more maneuverable. Centuries pass, the Persian threat wanes, but a new power rises in the west, Rome. When Augustus Caesar conquers Egypt, he too looks south, dreaming of controlling the exotic trade routes for himself. But unlike in our history, he does not find a collection of squabbling kingdoms. He finds a unified Sabaean navy patrolling the Red Sea. Direct conquest is impossible. So begins a long, complex dance between two empires. A cold war of the ancient world. Rome and the Sabaean Commonwealth become rivals, but also indispensable partners. Roman envoys are a common sight in the Sabaean capital, negotiating trade treaties and alliances. Proxy wars are fought in the desert kingdoms bordering their spheres of influence. Roman engineering marvels find their way into Sabaean cities, while Sabaean navigators and merchants become the undisputed masters of the Indian Ocean trade, bringing riches back to their own ports to be sold to the Romans at a handsome price. This sustained wealth and independence has a profound effect on the African continent. The heart of the empire slowly shifts from the Arabian coast to the cooler, more fertile and more populous Ethiopian highlands. Axum becomes the new imperial center, a breathtaking city of palaces, stelae, and centers of learning. It is a true melting pot where African, Semitic, and even Indian and Greek ideas mingle. The wealth of the world flows into Africa, not out of it. This changes the map of history. The spread of Christianity follows the trade routes, but the version that takes root here is fiercely independent, tied to the Solomonic dynasty and the Ark, answering to no patriarch in Rome or Constantinople. When the wave of Islam later expands out of Arabia, it does not find a weak and fractured region. It finds a powerful, unified, Christian empire controlling the Red Sea. The relationship is not one of immediate conquest, but one of prolonged rivalry and grudging respect. Much like that between Byzantium and the Caliphate, the influence of this great power radiates across Africa. Trade routes, protected by Sabaean power, push deeper into the interior, linking the highlands with the kingdoms of the Sahel and the Swahili coast. Knowledge, technology, and a tradition of centralized statehood spread with the caravans. The story of a great African empire, which stood as an equal to Persia and Rome, becomes a foundational myth, an inspiration for countless peoples across the continent. The world we are left with is one of different borders, different faiths, and a different balance of power. A world where a major center of gravity lies not on the Mediterranean but on the Red Sea. A world where the history of Africa is not one of exploitation from the outside, but of development from within. They say a single drop of rain can decide where a river will flow. In our story, it was a single journey, a shared vision between a wise king and a brilliant queen that carved a new river through the desert of history. A kingdom built on smoke and whispers can cast a shadow that lasts for millennia, for the strongest roots grow not in soil, but in a story shared between two shores.